I don't want to say that, but if I were God, I would give the best of everything to those who follow the true religion. You will now say that people are being tested. Such a test can't exist. If you came out and said, I am a prophet, I wouldn't believe you. If you said, look, I will make this building jump, and you did so, it would be stupid not to believe you. He said, I will split the moon, and then the moon was split. But how am I going to be convinced that this happened? Before that, there were 3 more holy books. He allowed those to be corrupted. Why doesn't he allow the Quran to be corrupted? I am the best man in the world. I help everyone all the time. I help everybody who needs help. There is nobody left behind, but I am not a Muslim. I will go to hell, right? But you will go to heaven for one thing, right? I mean, you're a Muslim.
There will be an accident. What punishment will you give in this world?
Some have been solved.
Let's take a step together again. Is it okay to post this on
No
YouTube?
problem.
Well, what is your faith?
I don't know what my faith is now. I can't say that I'm a Muslim, and I can't say I'm not a Muslim, or I'm something else. Let me say I'm confused. I mean, I am really confused.
Do you accept the existence of a
Of
creator?
course, I certainly believe that.
I mean, it's about the religion then.
I mean, I have some issues with religion.
Then can we say that you're a deist? Because deists accept the existence of a creator but don't
I'm
accept
closer to
religion?
that, but we can't exactly say that either.
I'm in the middle, you could
Right,
say.
I mean, I'm close to both. I'm sometimes here, sometimes there.
I mean, are you saying that you aren't a Muslim now? I'm not, but I don't know what
you
I
can
am.
say that
but
I'm not.
I don't know what I am.
Right.
Maybe today we can give you the answers that you're looking
I hope
for.
we can.
If that does happen, we answer your questions, would you say that I'm coming back to Islam?
Now, for example, there are many questions in my mind, but the biggest is that it is said that the Quran is protected by Allah. Before that, there were 3 more holy books: the Zabur, the Tawrat, and the Bible. If the first revealed book, the Tawrat, were protected by Allah, if it weren't allowed to be corrupted, there wouldn't be a need for the Zabur. There wouldn't be a need for the Bible. There wouldn't be a need for the Quran. And this way, Jews, Muslims, and Christians wouldn't be separated. The world wouldn't be such a complicated place.
But brother, there is a basic fact. For example, not only were there the 4 books, but also 124,000 prophets. 124,000 prophets came depending on the way people lived, depending on the conditions. Allah sent the prophets. When we look at the prophets who were sent to the first human community, they were giving out information according to that community. Imagine an education system like a college. It's systemized like elementary
Yes.
school, middle school, and college. Knowledge is formed step by step. It's increased step by step. Like this, if we imagine the history of mankind as an education field, detailing has occurred step by step. A prophet comes, a book is revealed, but people can corrupt it.
That's what I'm saying. Allah allows this to happen. Well, if he allowed those to be corrupted, why doesn't he allow the Quran to be corrupted?
Not corrupting the Quran. Allah's protection of the Quran, we can see that this is because the Quran is the final book. It's because the Quran is the last book and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the last prophet. As a matter of course, since there won't be any more prophets, the Quran has been protected. It's necessary that the Quran is protected so that the system continues to enlighten people. But because there were 124,000 prophets sequentially before, because they came constantly, as a matter of course, it is normal that people were allowed to corrupt as part of the divine test. It's possible. I mean, allowing this is a will, a preference. But we can ask, why did he choose to protect the Quran, to guarantee its protection? Since they are the last book and the last prophet, peace be upon him, there aren't any new prophets or a new reformer coming after this. That's why he doesn't allow its corruption.
And also, for example, for those who lived during that time and in that environment, things were a little easier. I'm telling you this based on what is said and what is written. You know, miracles took place, the moon got split, and so on. I can't recall everything. If you came out and said, I am a prophet, I wouldn't believe you. You could say, I will make this building jump, and if it did jump, do I even have a choice not to believe you? No, because I can see it. It would be stupid, foolish not to believe, because you can see it. The man says, I will split the moon, and the moon is split. I mean, you can't teach anything to someone who doesn't believe after that. Do you get it? But how am I going to be convinced that this happened?
We can list tens or hundreds of examples of this. When we look at the universe, we can see a lot of evidence. For example, when we drive a car, if the second person interferes, the car won't move for 100 meters, right?
More or less.
There will be an accident.
Of
I
course.
mean, it won't go. So I would say that even if a car couldn't go for 100 meters when the second person interfered, the continuation of the order in the galaxies, the continuation of the system in the world in order are all proofs that there is only one creator.
We already agreed on that.
Based on this, I would say that there must be only one. This is our first proof. We are now coming to the second proof. We could say, for example, that someone has drawn graffiti here,
Yes.
right? If someone draws graffiti here, they need to have a light here, right? Otherwise, it won't be understood.
Of course, certainly because as long as I can't see
It wouldn't make sense. So I would say that if we illuminate where we draw, we give it a meaning. The creator of the universe, the one who gave its meaning, Allah must have sent the light of prophecy to help us understand the meaning. Prophets are needed to understand the universe. Allah has an infinite number of attributes. For example, Allah is compassionate. What makes compassion compassion is the existence of eternity. What makes pleasure pleasure is the existence of eternity, the continuation of pleasure. When we look at the attributes like these, because He has infinite generosity, infinite compassion, their consequence will take place in the hereafter. If He didn't want to give, He wouldn't give us desire. Based on this, I am telling you that our desire for eternal life is to be fulfilled in the hereafter. This information I read on the Book of Universe is also in the Quran. So I would say that the answers I'm looking for are in the Quran. When I look at the Quran, there are prophetic miracles. There is the Surah Al-Lahab. It describes an event in the future. It foretells that Abu Lahab would die as an infidel, and it turned out to be true. When a person is constrained by time, how can he give information about how someone will die in the future? Also, this information, this verse wasn't revealed when Abu Lahab was close to death. His death occurred 7 years after. When this verse was revealed, an unbeliever could have also done that. He could have lied by saying that he believed.
I would do that.
But look, he didn't, knowing that he couldn't even do it as a lie. I mean, knowing all his system, this must have been said by the one who isn't constrained by time. Another proof that the Quran is the truth is that another book is similar to the Quran can't be written. The Quran starts a challenge. It says, write a book similar to the Quran. Even if all the jinn, all the people from all the ages come together, you can't write a similar book. Even after 14 centuries, a similar book can't be written. Its eloquence, giving numerous meanings with one letter, the harmony in it, its expression and wording astonish everyone. And nobody could write a similar book. And I'm saying that this is one of the miracles of the Quran. You know, you said that something supernatural should take place? You said that the Prophet performed miracles? Then what is there to amaze us? The Quran tells to write a similar book. Even if all the world came together, they couldn't and can't write a similar one, and the Quran says that you can't. So this is another proof that the Quran is the truth. We can list many more examples.
Now, the true religion is Islam, right? Which countries are the poorest in the world? I don't want to say this, but if I were God, I would give the best of everything to those who follow the true religion. For example, if I were generous, if I were compassionate, today there wouldn't be so many children dying in Africa. They wouldn't die. I would never let this happen. Jews have been persecuting the people in Palestine for a long time. Now, you will say that this is how people are being tested, but such a test can never be. A test doesn't mean starving in Africa. This isn't part of the test. Why is my test starving while theirs is living with wealth? Why my test is to die and theirs is to kill.
But I'm going to tell you this. What you mentioned is all related to people's own wills, to people's persecutions.
Isn't Allah omnipotent?
He is omnipotent, but would it be wise? That's the main question. Now, you want people not to hurt, not to suffer, not to face these difficulties. And that since Muslims are right, they aren't hurt at all. When we look at it as intervening, if Allah miraculously intervened just as you wish, it wouldn't be reasonable. It's reasonable that Allah made a law and sent the perfect system based on this law. If only believers, like you said, only those who found the truth were protected, someone kills the other. Like you said, Israelis kill Palestinians. If there were an exclusive protection for Palestine, if there were constant protection, this would reveal the meaning of the test. If only Muslims were protected with an incredible shield, then everyone would start getting behind this shield. They would say, there's a miraculous protection here, so this is the truth, and they would accept it. It would take people's willpower away. But what happens? In order to manage the system you mentioned in the best way, Allah gives people laws. For example, the system of zakat. In the system of zakat, a person who is wealthy must donate 1/40th of his wealth. So what happens? You probably looked at the calculations. If the richest 3 people in the world donated even a small portion of their zakat,
Even the next generations will be out of poverty.
right, Allah has already given us the solution. He gives the solution and people don't obey. So if people with their own will don't obey the law and don't implement the solution, that is their own fault. For example, a doctor comes and intentionally kills all the people who come to the hospital. Now, in this case, do we blame the doctor or the medical books?
We blame the doctor.
We blame the doctor. It has nothing to do with the medical books. We don't even get angry at them. Just like this, when Allah gave the solution in the Quran just because some people hurt each other, it wouldn't make sense to blame the Quran or to say that the information given by the Quran is wrong. Big crimes are punished in big places and small crimes are punished in small places. They're taken to court. So big crimes like killing other people, committing a massacre are taken to the major court and will be punished in the hereafter.
They will be punished in the hereafter. Okay, let's say that. For example, I'm asking, is Allah merciful? Imagine you have 3 kids. Can you treat them differently? At the end of the day, they are your kids. What would you do? For your bad child, you would try to be a good example. Try to educate them. Just because your kid did such things, you wouldn't shoot or burn them.
Are you saying that even when you see these victims, these persecutors that you criticize, that he's going to take them to court?
I mean, I think so. Let me tell you this. If it were going to happen, many things would have happened by now.
Imagine someone killed millions of people. What punishment can you give them in this world? For example, imagine a man who has killed millions of babies. He killed millions of babies. Now, how will you make the mother happy at this point? How can you punish that man in this world?
As I say, you make him suffer, I mean. Basically, we have a system. I am totally against capital punishment because I think it's an escape. But for example, in our system, there is something called aggravated life sentence.
Do you think it's enough?
It isn't enough. Definitely not enough.
I would say the same. That's the main point. So because it isn't enough, the one we trust in would bring it in from this world to the hereafter, so that it can be punished in the major court. You can't kill someone who has killed a million people a million times. So I would say that there must be a major courtroom. I would say that it has to be delayed for a major courtroom. I would say that this makes sense.
Imagine I'm such a nice person. I'm the best man in the world. I have millions and help everybody all the time. I help everybody who needs help. There is nobody left behind. But I'm not a Muslim. I will go to hell, right? And you are such a good Muslim. You know, you are a good Muslim in terms of faith. You perform all your religious duties, but you are such a bad person. You will go to the heaven for one thing, right? I mean, because you are Muslim.
I got it. That's a very good question. Let me explain, brother. The first issue is that faith is a matter of result. I mean, take someone who is seen as a very nice person now, who is really good, who have no idea how he will die. What is important is the decision at the moment of death. Someone who is such a good person can die with faith. It's a matter of result. Or you mention a Muslim who is such a bad person. I mean, you mention his lifestyle. He could say, I believed during his lifetime, but it isn't known how he would die. Maybe because he committed such bad actions, which darkened his heart. As he darkened his heart by committing sins, he would die without faith. We don't know that. I mean, we can't come to a conclusion by looking at people's lifestyles. That would be wrong.
We can't
Perfect.
for sure.
That's the first item, brother. Let's come to the second. We should know what the concept we call goodness is. For example, if a king employed you and gave you 1,000 pieces of gold and told you to go and give them to people over there, would it be your own good or the king's?
It would be the king's good.
He already gave them himself, right? Here, also the willpower given to us, which is as worthy as gold, our strength or the things we use while we do good, those fruits, food, the materials we give to people, everything belongs to Allah. As in the example of the king giving the pieces of gold. So the doer of all the good is Allah. The servant only does what is ordered. Since the real property here belongs to the king, the real doer of the good is the king. So who is the one who gave us willpower? Allah. Allah is the one who gives us willpower and choice. Along with willpower, the things and the system I use for doing good, who created them? Allah. When I do good, I feel compassion and happiness. Who gave me these feelings? Who is the one who makes me do good? Who gives me the emotions? Again, Allah. So all the sources belong to Allah. He encouraged me to use my willpower and gave me the feeling of happiness. He also gave me the trait of generosity. Let's imagine a man came here and he placed bombs in many places, all right? He then went somewhere far away and killed 100,000 people just by pressing a button. So in court he can say, Dear judge, what wrong did I do? I only pressed a button. It only takes a second. Why do you exaggerate it?
He can't.
We need to look at the system that emerged as a consequence. If we had soldiers and government officials here, what would happen? It would get even more serious, right?
Of course.
Now, as in this example, an unbeliever happens to come to this universe, and everything in the universe from atoms to animals and to clouds is a servant of Allah. They all introduce Allah. For example, when we look at a tree and its fruits, it's actually a servant that introduces Allah to us. It shows us many attributes of Allah, such as His name, Razak, and His generosity. When an unbeliever says that there is no Allah in this universe, what do they actually do? They kill all these servants in the universe. They reject their duties. Like someone who tells the judge, I only pressed a button and nothing else. Just as it doesn't change the result, it also doesn't change the result when they say, I only said that there is no Allah in the universe. I didn't do anything wrong. If someone says there is no Allah, they are denying all the proofs, all the servants, and all the soldiers in the universe. Also, they happen to deny the one who is eternal. For example, when you slap me in the face, there may be a little argument and we can resolve it ourselves. But what happens when you slap a king in the face? It then becomes a big issue. I mean, it can even result with your death. Of course. Just like this, if a person causes a small harm, it can be solved. But if a person, as in the example of slapping a king, says that there is no creator of the universe and symbolically kills all the servants, then what happens? Someone who denies eternity commits an eternal crime. Since that person commits a big crime, they need to face the consequences of what they did. Like you already said at the beginning, they kill hundreds of thousands of people in Palestine. They kill 100,000 children, you said. Wouldn't we want them to be punished with justice?
We certainly would.
So with the existence of hell, this would be a just punishment.
No, but I mean, is it such a big crime to say I am not a Muslim?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Let me give an example. A king invites us to his palace, okay? He holds a large feast at the palace. A man comes out and says that all the fruits in this palace are mine. There's no king here. Please go ahead. Let me give them to you. He seemingly does well by distributing the fruits there. Let's imagine this. What does he do? He tries to take ownership of the property there, but there's another group coming. People in this group say that the king has prepared such a great feast for us and acknowledge the king. They acknowledge that the fruits are from him. Then some arguments arise between them. They hurt one another. They commit a crime against one another. Crimes like these are committed. When we now look at the accusation here, while one side tries to take ownership of the king's property, steals it and says there's no king, and ruins the purpose of the feast and misleads the people, what does the other do? They acknowledge him, but an argument takes place. When we look at the level of crime here, one is a bigger crime and the other is a relatively smaller crime. Just as in this example, if an unbeliever comes to this universe and says there's no Allah, if he says there's no creator, he steals all of his property. There's no creator. The property belongs to me. My body belongs to me. When he does something good, distributes the fruits there to the people claiming that he is doing good to them, and tells people that there's no king of that place. It means that he tries to take ownership of all the property there and steals them, and it means that he symbolically kills all the servants there, since everything is created to show the attributes of Allah. A Muslim may commit a crime here, but he acknowledges the king of the universe. But as I told you, these basics will be settled step by step.
Some have been solved. I already think about it all the time. I will continue to think about it. I mean, you were helpful.
You are saying some have
Yes,
been
indeed.
solved, but not everything. For example, we are outside, okay? And let's say we are at the edge of a cliff. There is also a palace with 100 doors in front of us. One door of the palace with 100 doors is open and 99 of them are closed.
But we are in a dire situation. In this case, would we avoid entering the palace because 99 doors are closed?
We wouldn't.
One door is already open. Why wouldn't we enter? But if I need to, I can continue opening the doors from inside. As in this example, brother, maybe some rules in Islam sometimes don't make sense to you. You may be having a difficult time understanding them. I mean, a few doors of Islam may be left closed for you. But we say that even when one door is enough to enter this palace, what if we enter the palace of Islam and try to open the other doors from inside rather than staying outside? Isn't it more reasonable to stay inside?
I was already, as you described, about 7 to 8 years ago. I was trying to open the doors from inside.
All right, you can enter again. For example, we opened a few doors together today.
This time I'm trying to open from the outside. I wasn't successful from inside. I'm trying to open from outside.
But as we said, there are at least a few basics that were settled. In the end, we opened a door.
We opened 1 or 2 doors.
We can solve the remaining questions. I mean, we are at the edge of a cliff. Do you get it? The reality of death is for all of us, and there is nothing we have nothing to gain from being outside, because there is nothing we can win outside. It's possible that I may not be able to open some doors inside. This may be the case with every situation. Even in some classes, we understand some stuff slowly. Then our logic changes. So we say that when there is one door open, let's come inside. Let's search from inside. I tell you that this would be a more sensible, more logical perspective. Wouldn't it be more beautiful if we did that? Let's search the other doors together later.
Maybe. I'm not promising anything, but maybe.
Let's take another step together.
I mean, I'm not so sure.
Brother, I think one door is enough for you.
I mean, 1 door. I will try. I will really try.
Maybe you can think about it today. Maybe you can think about it tonight. I think it would be more beautiful if you entered the palace. Think about it for yourself. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer
Thanks.
them. It was a good conversation.
Thank
Take care.
you. Take care.